Hola everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video, I just want to debunk some misconceptions about some eating disorders. If you saw this title and you're like, oh my god, bitch, like, ooh, you're gonna get in hot water. No, I'm fighting with you, girl. So I actually have some notes written down here. So if I'm looking down, it's because I'm just referring to my notes. So let's just get into it. So some misconceptions about eating disorders. I hear this often enough. I've had a friend in my high school who was a lot bigger, who suffered with bulimia. I remember one time when she came forward to one of our friends saying, oh, you know, I actually am struggling with bulimia. And she was so torn apart. She was crying. She was so upset. And this one friend of mine said, well, how can you have an eating disorder because you're not skinny? And bitch, I looked at her and I was like, I'm gonna smack you. Like, I'm gonna smack you. What you're basically telling someone is that they don't need help, that they don't need help this moment because they're not at the point where they're skin and bones. So I'm just saying this to make this abundantly clear. You do not have to be a skinny twig to deserve help for an eating disorder. I know plenty of people who have these eating issues and they are a lot bigger in general. Let me also just mention that if it's to do with starving, when you starve yourself, then when you start to eat anything, something small, your body naturally makes you put on weight from anything that you eat because it's not used to getting nutrition. So it is common for you to, for example, starve yourself, and then when you do eat something, even though it's quite small and not a lot, you will end up like putting on that weight. That's why with dieting, people are saying like, don't starve yourself, like don't undereat, because then when you eat normally, you're going to just put that weight back on if you're just like, you know, trying to lose weight. And also people are built differently. I know so many girls who just have like bigger boobs and like wider hips. So when they wear certain clothes, they actually look like a big woman, and then once I see them in their bikini, I'm like, damn, you're like actually so skinny, like you've got like no fat on you, but it's just like what they wear that like that hides the fact that they've got like, you know, for example, really skinny waist. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of TikToks where like girls are wearing like an oversized hoodie, and because they've got like generally big boobs and like big waist, that they look like they're like a bigger girl, and as soon as they like, you know, like touch their body, they actually got a small waist. I've also known people who have had eating disorders and they hide it through their clothing. I had this one girlfriend who would never wear tight clothing. She just lived in oversized clothing, and I remember when I was struggling with the similar eating disorder as her at the time, I asked her, I was just like, well, why are you wearing like such baggy clothing? Like, it's just gonna make you look fatter. We were really close at the time, so like we could like say stuff like that. And she would say to me, like, the reason why I like to wear such baggy clothing is that then you don't know like how fat I am because you can't see my skin. But if I wear something tight, then you can see like how my skin overlaps, or like, you know, you can see like my pudginess. So when you tell someone, oh, like, you don't have an eating disorder because you're not skinny, you're pretty much putting such nasty thoughts into their brain. I honestly, like, when I heard that friend of mine say that to my bigger friend, I literally wanted to punch them in the face. I'm like, do you even know how damaging that is to say to someone? It's so disgusting, honestly. Like, that is already an unhealthy thought they have in their brain. Imagine being so consumed with an eating disorder that you constantly pick yourself apart, control yourself, you restrict yourself. With bulimia, it can also be, you know, self-punishment. It could be body image. So imagine having like all these issues with like body image, punishing yourself, controlling yourself, not thinking beautiful thoughts about yourself, hating yourself, and then to have someone say like, oh, you pretty much don't need help because you fat bitch. Like, oh man, I want to punch her in the face right now, like, fuck. And it's the same with other addictions, because I think eating disorder can also be an addiction, and that's pretty much saying to someone who comes forward to you, says like, guys, like, I'm an alcoholic, like, I actually, like, I need to stop drinking, and they're like, you're not an alcoholic, it's not like you even get blackout drunk when you're around us. Bro, like some people, all they do is drink at home by themselves, and then when they're out with people, when they drink, they control themselves. I had so many people justify me smoking weed every single day. I literally smoked weed every single day for a really long time. I'm like so clean at the moment. I'm the most sober I've ever been in my, like, since I've been like 16. So I'm okay to like talk about like weed addiction as well too. And I just remember like smoking every single day, every half an hour, always. Like I could just like never even change my bong water because it just get dirty after like literally like 2 hours. And I just remember like talking to my friends, and because weed culture is so relaxed here in Australia, I remember talking to my friends and being like, guys, like I really want to stop, like I'm so dependent on it. After work I always have to have some weed, like I can't sleep without weed, I couldn't eat without weed. And I'd like explain that to them and they'd be like, well, you're not so bad, you don't smoke that much. And I'm like telling them like, dude, guys, like you, just because you don't see me at home, you don't see how much I'm smoking. And I'm telling you right now, I'm smoking. Even though I wasn't smoking as much as like my other friends who were addicted to weed, that doesn't mean that I couldn't stop my addiction. Like you don't have to have like seizures for you to realize that you gotta like stop being addicted to something. For me, even with coffee, like I never really drank coffee since like kind of being sober for the past like 2 months, like dead stone cold sober, except I had a few sips of wine. I realized that, you know, I was waking up every morning and I was drinking a cup of coffee, and I never drank coffee like my whole life. And even though I wasn't drinking like 3 or 4 cups like my friends do every single day, I still was noticing that if I woke up one day and I didn't have a cup of coffee, I was tired. So what I did was I only have a cup of coffee every other day or every 2 days, because I don't want to be dependent on anything. When I was talking to people being like, oh, like fuck, like I'm getting dependent on coffee because I didn't have coffee this morning and I'm feeling really tired, and then to have people be like, girl, I drink 3 cups of coffee a day, and I'm like, just because your addiction is worse than mine doesn't mean that I shouldn't be supported to stop my addiction. However big or small the addiction is as well. I digress. Pretty much telling a person who has an eating disorder, you can't have that eating disorder, or I don't believe you have that eating disorder because you're not skinny, is pretty much telling a cancer patient, you don't have cancer, you still got hair. Tell me you don't want to punch me in the face right now for saying that. Like, fuck, I want to. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I posted a video on an update on eating. I saw a few comments where people were like, I want to open up, I want to tell people about my eating disorder, but I feel silenced because I'm scared people are going to say to me what I already think, which is, you don't have an eating disorder, you're not skinny, you're chubby, you're a chubby girl, you're a chubby guy. How can you have an eating disorder? I think you're fine. You're healthy? Look at you. You got curves? I feel so sorry for people who are on the curvier side, on the bulkier side, who are struggling with eating disorders and who are not receiving the help and support they deserve because people are prejudiced against their size. They're like, nobody's gonna take me seriously. Oh, it fucking upset me. And then also having comments on the other side of the spectrum, which I relate to, which is, I was a really skinny child when I grew up. If they've known me my whole life, they were like, you were always a skinny child, and that's fine. And I'm like, just because you were always a skinny child doesn't mean that you starving yourself, you making yourself throw up, you having unhealthy eating habits doesn't mean you don't deserve help. And what I'm trying to say out of this whole situation is that if someone tells you they're sick, believe them. Because even if you believe their self-harm, their bulimia, their anorexia, their claims of depression, even if you believe that is for seeking attention, if someone tells you they're sick and they need help, fucking believe them, because only a sick person wants to be sick. Because if you think this is for attention, that is a sick person. That is a sick person, because only a healthy person will be proud to be, oh, I'm healthy, I'm good, I'm fine. But if someone is saying, oh, I self-harm, I have an eating disorder, and you think they're saying that for attention, they are sick. And I don't mean that in like, oh, you're sick in the head, you're fucked up. I mean that in a, they need help. If someone says I need help, fucking believe them. And also, to touch on this topic, I've also had issues to talk about my struggles with food in the past because of my control issues, my self-hatred. It was also a form of self-harm for me, and body dysmorphia. And it was really hard to talk about that to one of my friends because she was a bit bigger. In fact, she was like, I guess classified as like a fat girl. And I remember she said to me once, which was like upsetting, she was like, well, if you have an eating disorder, you must think I'm fucking obese. You must think I'm a fucking elephant. And even though I wanted to explain to this person, like, obviously, like, my control issues are for myself. Like, I am controlling myself, I am punishing myself, I literally hate myself. And this is all about the way I view myself. When I see other people, especially my friends, I'm literally like, I love them for who they are. I've never made friends off what they look like. Like, I've always just made friends on, if I feel good around them, they make me laugh, they make me smile, they make me feel good about myself, they're gonna be a friend that I keep around. Obviously, this person didn't last in my friendship because they obviously took the time to understand. And then I remember when it was brought up one time again, because a lot of the other friends in the friendship group was bringing it up about how they had disordered eating. And I remember she said, y'all bitches are all skinny, like what the fuck are you talking about? I just remember, like, imagine like silencing all of your friends who are opening up about a very like personal and serious topic, about a topic that people are already like throwing their judgment around about, and then to be like, you guys are fucked up because you guys are all skinny. Like, why the fuck are you stressing? Look at me, I'm fat. Like, why are you guys stressing about this? And I'm like, obviously people, you know, they deal with their trauma a separate way. Like, people don't realize that addiction is it's a symptom of trauma, and addiction is also eating disorders. That is an addiction. Same as self-harm. Addiction is a symptom of trauma. I think that conversation I had with that friend, honestly, I don't think I've ever really talked about disordered eating to anybody after that. The only people I've talked to it about is you guys, honestly. It's easier to talk to the camera about that stuff in my last video, which was actually really hard to film. If you think that someone doesn't deserve help because they don't fit your understanding or your idea of eating disorders, then you honestly need to educate yourself. And if someone has said this to you, please link them this video. I'm very much welcoming if someone has said, you don't have an eating disorder because you're fat, or you don't have an eating disorder, you're just skinny, you were just born skinny. Send them this video. If you're receiving this video, just know that it's a really hard topic to explain. The only reason I'm explaining this is because I'm talking to a camera in a room by myself, but it is a very difficult topic to explain. And last comparison I want to make is that some people might even say, oh, you're not self-harming, I don't see scars on your wrists. Like, do I even need to explain this? But let me just like go on this tangent, okay? Like, if you say to someone like, oh, like, you're not suffering from self-harm, like, I've never seen any of your scars. Some people hide their scars, some people, I don't even want to like talk about the technique I did because I don't want to influence you guys to do it, but I burned myself a certain way where it would heal over the next maybe 3-4 weeks, and I barely have any scars from this type of burn. It didn't look like self-harm, and it was easy for me to be like, oh, like, I just burnt myself on the stove, or be like, oh, oops, I bleach burned myself, or, you know, oops, like, it's a rash. It was so easy to say like, oh, it wasn't self-harm because it never looked like self-harm. And I would be so disgusted if anyone that I came up to saying like, look, I'm struggling with self-harm, was like, well, I don't see any cuts on you, mustn't be that deep then. I'd be so upset. And I'm so sorry to any of you guys who had your problems dismissed because people are ignorant. If you guys want, I've started opening up my DMs on my Instagram, so if you want to message me on Instagram, I'll try to get back to you. All of you guys have been asking for advice. I try my best to like message people back, but I kind of like prioritize what to spend my time on. Hi guys, sorry I kind of look like a hobo right now. I did not want to try at all, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm like totally fine. I'm totally healed from any, you know, disorder whatsoever, including like depression, anxiety, eating disorders. So please do not worry about me. Make sure you spend your time and effort in the comment sections helping each other, being nice to each other, supporting each other, or talking about your experience. But yes, definitely do reach out. Love you guys all so much. Bye. So this is the quote of the day. Thank you, Sammy's Island, for leaving this comment, and I think I'm actually going to include it in a poem I want to write. So if you guys hear a poem and see this quote, it's not mine, it's just inspired by this quote left by Sammy's Island. And if you want to leave a quote down below, do comment a quote and it might be featured in next week's video. And I will also continue to leave Black Lives Matter resources down in the description below so you know how to donate even if you don't have any money.